The last option I want to talk about while working with text is changing the character direction. So when you're working on a slide presentation and you want your text to flow differently than the default, which is horizontal from left to right, there are different ways to rotate that text or stack it. So I've closed up all the different presentations I've been working on. You can do the same if you like, but we are going to open up another presentation, so we'll go to the Office button and click Open. From the Lesson 5 folder of your exercise files, we're going to open up this last one down here, introducing ECP5I. So we'll click that one before clicking the Open button to bring it up on our screen. So we're going to work here on this first slide, our title slide in our presentation. Let's say we wanted to add the initials ECP, but we don't want it to run across from left to right on our presentation, on our slide. We want it to go from top to bottom. Well, the first thing we need to do is get our text in here. So we'll go up to the Insert tab, give that a click, and then we'll go over to Text Box. Now when we click that, we have to come into the slide somewhere and start typing. I'm going to click down here, and I'm going to type in ECP. Alright, now I'm going to change the size of this box. Even though I'm not changing the size of the text, I'm giving it a little bit more room so I can work with the box itself. So by clicking on the border of a text box, the entire box is selected, so any changes we make now affect anything inside that box. And I am going to change the font. So I'm going to click this font drop down in the font group, and I'm going to choose Arial Black. Next, I'm going to change the size. Let's click the size drop down and choose something much larger. As we hover over the sizes, we see it changing, and I'm thinking maybe 44 would be good. Alright, so we've got our text in here. Now if we want it to flow vertically as opposed to horizontally, there's a couple of options. One is to rotate it ourselves. Now whenever we select an object, we see these sizing handles. We can move it when we see the four-sided arrow. There's this little green circle at the top, which is our rotate option. So I can click and drag with my mouse to rotate that box. Now if I hold down my Shift key as I rotate, you're going to see it's going to snap to various degrees until I get it straight up and down. I'll let go of the mouse button first and then release. So I could move that over here and, well, maybe that's what I'm looking for. Maybe it should be the other way. And now I'm thinking maybe it should be stacked so that the E, the C, and the P are one on top of the other. Well, that's a different option. So I'm going to rotate this back to where we started. I'm going to move it back onto my slide here. And another way to change direction is to go up to the paragraph group up here and click on the Text Direction button. So give that a click. Horizontal is currently selected, but there's our rotate options. So if you want it to be specifically 90 degrees or 270, you can do it that way, or you could do it manually the way we did it. But here's the one I'm looking for, stacked. And when I click that, don't be alarmed. Look what happens. Doesn't look like much has happened except for some extra spacing. Well, that's just simply because the box isn't the right size for our text. So what we need to do is click and drag either the top or the bottom sizing handle in the middle here, and just click and drag. I'm going to drag this one straight up. So you can see it's much larger than it needs to be now, but I've got them stacked one on top of the other, which means I can move it into the correct location here on the left-hand side. I'm going to just bump it down a little bit so only the C is inside my beige box, and I'm going to deselect by clicking anywhere in the slide. So that looks cool. Now there is one other option that I want to show you with changing text direction. So we're going to click back in here. I'm going to click on the border of my text box. I'm going to go up to the Text Direction button. I'm going to click it, but down at the bottom you may have noticed we've got more options. So clicking that actually opens up the Format Text Effects dialog box. You see that up here. And here's our text layout. So currently the horizontal alignment is left, but you can see the text direction is changed to stacked. So we could have changed it from here as well, and there's our four options. We can also change the order of lines from left to right to left if we wanted to. Down below we've got some auto-fit options and some internal margin options too. So the margin's inside of our text box. Now the auto-fit, I just want to tell you about this because when we enter text inside of a shape, and we will be working with shapes a little bit later on. For example, you draw a rectangle or a circle. If you type text inside of one of those shapes, the shape will automatically resize itself to fit your text. And the two pieces become one, so text and shapes kind of mold into one object. We'll talk about that later on, but just so you know, the default is here to resize a shape when we change the size of our text. So we'll click Close down here, and we'll deselect our text box by clicking anywhere in the slide, and there's our finished product. So that covers changing character direction in a text box. We're going to move on to the next section where we actually proof our documents or our content in our slides.